So what we did yesterday, okay, so we learned about how the knowledge is represented in here, right? That's what we did. We haven't discussed much about how it is represented in there. So I mentioned two important things you have to remember for knowledge representation. One is semantic network, and the other one is schema. Okay, so what we so far understood, there are many other models or many other tools to represent, represent the knowledge in brain, but most important two topics you have to remember is semantic network and schema. Both of them are being used in computer science to represent knowledge, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Many of them are using this conceptual knowledge representation with semantic and schema. So John Anderson in particular will discuss something about, we don't have it, sorry. We don't have any cricket today, no quiz. Good on you, right? So, what did I say? Oh, John Anderson. Okay, John Anderson say he wants to make something more human-like programming, or they want to make something very similar with a human. So they developed ACT, A-C-T, which we'll discuss tomorrow, next week, or end of this week, end of today. But ACT is what they have made for knowledge representation, and SOA, Ron Hart or other peoples are developing new knowledge representation with artificial intelligence logic. So we can discuss this one is in due time. But what we have to focus today is how semantic network and schema are different. Okay, we just stopped yesterday about this one, conceptual knowledge. Okay, so we are remembering or we are storing some of the information with a structured way. Otherwise, we can't hold all the detail of the information in here. So we separate them out, we classify them, we put them in the right order. So this categorical information was really, this categorical information is really good to help us to predict. So we mentioned yesterday, this categorical information gives us some negative information such as the stereotype. Okay. So, and then we discussed something about the semantic network using some conceptual knowledge can be represented in this network format. Okay, so we mentioned about how this detailed thing, okay, can be assessed by the people to using this kind of semantic network. This one is probably some of our knowledge representation. So one is the format we're using it. The point is this one. Okay, so knowledge representation with semantic network has some benefit, such as if a factor about a concept is encountered frequently, it will be stored with that concept even if it could be inferred from a higher order concept, which means have you thought about something about why you have some devastated accident or incident or feeling is remembered more than your happiness? Like your parents pass away or your grandparents pass away, when you divorce, you're not divorced yet, okay, so, because you're not married. Okay, that kind of critical instance is remembered longer than happiness. The reason is because that fact gives us higher strength on our knowledge network. Okay, so in the previous example, if you have seen many of the movies of the canary, the yellow bird, the small yellow bird. So if you see many of the canary is singing in a movie or cartoon, you already remember many of the canary can sing very well. So these kinds of more frequent information is stored in here to be quickly retrieved. Right? However, likewise, this one, canary has a skin. Oh, where is it? Somewhere has a skin. Right? Animal has all the skin. Okay, we can't see it. Skin somewhere on the top. Okay, so these kinds of information can be inferred by this semantic network. However, these kinds of fact is not much visible or not accessible by you, your previous experience, so that doesn't say much about the canary has a skin, because that information has not been much recalled in your lifetime. However, canary seeing is much frequent event, isn't it? Never know. Okay, the point is, what I'm trying to say is, if you have more experience, that knowledge is stored in our semantic network, so they can easily retrieved rather than other less frequent event. Semantic network cannot represent it. So that's why some people developing new model or new approach to represent how frequent we can retrieve the information from these kinds of knowledge network. But I mean, that is a more future work, so not at the moment. So that is kind of information. If the factor is encountered frequently, that's stored with the concept, even if it could be inferred from the higher order concept. Okay? More frequent event, stored, effective ways, so we can retrieve that information very quickly from network. Okay, second point is, the more frequently a factor about the concept is encountered, the more strongly that the factor will be associated with the concept. Likewise, in here, ostrich can't fly. If this fact, of course this ostrich is a kind of bird, but that is very special category, isn't it? That is very special knowledge. However, from your secondary school and primary school, your statutory curriculum teach you ostrich can't fly. You have many tests, right? Ostrich, 타조. Okay? So you have many tests in primary school, your primary school, elementary school, right? That's why you have a rote knowledge. Okay? If you have this kind of rote knowledge by your practice or rehearsal, that kind of event is kind of this one. Because you remember many of the things that is strongly marked on your network, engraved. Get it? So this kind of strong event, okay, something important thing is stored in your knowledge network, so that can be more rapidly retrieved. Likewise, this one, okay, ostrich can't fly. And then inferring facts that are not directly stored with the concept take a relatively long time, such as we mentioned yesterday about canary has a skin in here, right? It takes a long time because we need some time to retrieve from the level 3 to level 1 to retrieve canary has a skin, or canary can breathe, canary can eat something. Because we are not have these kinds of knowledge in here directly, so we need some kind of time to retrieve and time to infer from one knowledge to another. So that is basic idea of semantic network. Get it? Simple. So that is summary, the final summary about semantic network. Semantic network was the strength of the connection between fact and concept, and distance between them in the semantic network have effect on retrieval time. Such as distance is important. If you have longer distance, the far away from one fact to the other, it takes time to retrieve it. Okay? Or the strength, so that you have to keep, if you want to keep that information in an important position, you have to rehearsal pre-open. Okay? So they give a strength on that knowledge, priority. Okay, so that is kind of semantic network. Right, that is what we done yesterday. So now is talking about the schema. Schema is something about a rather relatively different approach than semantic network. For example, the limitation about semantic network, this one. Okay, we can represent the knowledge with these kinds of node and the either link. But limitation about this semantic network is we can't say general structure of an object, such as what is bird. So we can't say, we know that what is bird, isn't it? So we need their beak, right? They need a beak. 2 legs. Is there any legs with the 4 legs? Bird, 2. And feather. Some bird doesn't have a feather. Do we? No. Something about. So, but this knowledge network cannot say something like the semantic. Something like a structure, the general structure of the information or knowledge. Only that is kind of event. Okay, bird has a wing, can fly, and has feather. That is kind of link relationship. Most of the knowledge network in semantic, most of the knowledge representation in semantic network doesn't say much about the general nature of knowledge structure. So what is home? What is house? House? You don't know what is house. They need some rooms, windows, doors. People should live there. That kinds of general structure can be retrieved from our categories, but knowledge network cannot represent the details of these kinds of structure. We can do sometime if you have a longer knowledge network, like a bird has a wing, but you can make a branch another information. What other object has a wings? Can you say whales has a wing? Whales, 고래. Do they have wings? They can fly sometimes. They can jump, okay? So likewise, one of the property of the bird can be represented on the knowledge network, semantic network, but it cannot be represent general structure of information or knowledge. That's why we need a new approach, which is being used artificial intelligence called schema. This one. Because of the limitation in semantic network, some people propose schema could be better represent our categorical information. So I think many of you already know the Java in the second year. You're second year student. You complete the Java and object-oriented programming. In object-oriented programming, if you want to declare a class, right? If you want a class such as human, user, you can specify some property, right? And then function, right? Okay, that is class. Okay, so this kind of representation is very similar with the schema because they include organized cluster of information about particular topic. So when you remember some of the class, it can be called the user class. Okay, so in user class you have function and property to be handled by this function. So that is why we call the object-oriented programming. So that kind of representation is schema. Okay, so example is better, isn't it? So what is the example? Schema. Okay, in our textbook, the example is house. Maybe you can say something entertaining example, such as what could be done? What object do you want to describe? Anything, any schema, anything you want to describe. Object. Human. Okay, so we can start with human. Okay, how we know about human? Human. Well, 2 legs. Okay, 2 arms. Something. All right, property. Our property is basic to human, the organism. That's it. We can define the human with 2 legs, 2 arms. It's similar with the chimpanzees, the apes, 1 nose, hairs, okay? And something. So if you're only using this organism to define the human, we can't distinguish between human and apes. What do we need more? Language, yeah, we have a language, okay. Communication. We have a language. Just only language. The chimpanzee has a language. They can talk each other. But it's not like what we are expecting, but they can communicate, right? Letters, okay, speaking language, spoken language, written language. Probably only human being has a written language, right? But what I heard from some of the new study, evolutionary approach, says some of the apes can write some letters to communicate. So it's not unique approach of human being. Thinking process, so many of us say only human can think. Okay, something. Before think, we say use tool. We can use tool, right? Only human can. No, it's a chimpanzee or other things can do that. So we have, but we can do guns, something, okay? Cannons. We killing, okay, using these tools, right? Is that all to define the human? What is a unique characteristic? So when you define the nature of knowledge of the human being, so how you can describe the human with these kinds of slot? That is called a slot. Okay, that is called a value. That's what we mentioned in here. Say, when you define any of the information, you need a slot structure, likewise, and then some value. In the value, we can define default value, such as, okay, that is unique one for the human. That is unique one. Of course, we have many different the slot structure to define our human. It's not like semantic network. Okay, semantic network, if we want to represent this one, so we can see another ways like level 1 human. It's very difficult to define it, but we can represent this same information with the knowledge network like this one, topic information thingy, but when you define this one as semantic network, we can't make a labeling. Of course, we can make a labeling in the human, the female, male, elderly, younger, right? Adolescent. We can do that with the semantic network, but that is totally different representation with this one. Isn't it? Likewise, when you represent this one as human, okay, such as organism, communication tool, we can use it. And then this one is male. And then go to elderly. Likewise. Level 1, 2, 3. Like what we did, canary, animal, a bird, and animal. That kinds of semantic network can be represented in this way, but schema is trying to represent the nature of knowledge structure. That is exactly mapping with computer scientist approach. That's why they use it to represent artificial intelligence. So you probably heard some of the ontological concept. Ontology, have you heard about ontology? So ontology is the way how to define this slot. That is another buzzword in computer science. So how we can define that slot. Not it's kind of exclusively and exhaustively. It's not overlapped. That is the best way. I mean, how we define the slot knowledge is studying by the ontology to define this kind of schema. So the schema is really useful inference tool. So when you think about house or human, you already know many things in here, right? Right. However, schema has some issues, such as we are wrongly infer some of the information from our knowledge structure. So I will show this one in 35 seconds to you guys. Okay, look at that. That is kitchen, and trying to remember as many as item. Okay. Okay, that is 35 seconds. So now we are write down what you have seen. Okay, that is kitchen. Okay. Okay, what have we seen? Jiung, where is Jiung? What have we seen? Nothing? You close your eyes? Tools, what? Utensil? Nothing? Frying pan? You never seen anything? Apples? Huh? Basket. Okay. What basket? Fruit? Okay. Huh? Anything else? Huh? Cat. Is it? Okay. Okay. Statue? Ah, statue. Okay. Okay. Statue. Yeah. Only two of them? Huh? Apple. Okay. Okay, bananas. Oh? Base? What is base?
Flower.
Ah, flour. Okay. Gas range. The cooker. Okay. Or oven. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. We understand it. Gas range. Yeah. Everyone knows it. Okay. Oh? Oh, fridge. Okay. Cabinet. Oh, what do you say? Sandwich? Huh? Shirt. Shorts. Shelf. Ah, shelves. Okay. Huh? That's it? All of them? No more? I gave it 35 seconds. So, point is, have you seen the globe? There's a globe in here. There's many other things. Okay, something unusual stuff. Okay, fruit basket, something. It looks like sandwich. And flowers somewhere. Photo frame. Okay, so what you haven't described is this one. Okay, that is one you found. Not found was, what is it? The globe. Photo frame. Huh? What's it? Magazine, okay. Flower? Flower you have somewhere. Okay, you found some. Wine. Where is wine? This one, you're talking about this one?
No, left side.
This one?
Yes, left.
That is, what is it? The kind of bottle, yeah? Cooking oil, okay. Okay. Right. If this one is one you have found and one you couldn't find, see? What is the difference? What can you get from this, your survey? Why you can't find this one? Why? Why we cannot find it? Because that is, oh, say it. Yes, that's the exactly what I want to say. This idea, these items are not related to what? Kitchen. Oh, in terms of this one, someone really good at this one. Huh? So when you found these, most of them you can find from kitchen. However, this part is not found in kitchen. So that's why we can see it. So the major experiment to define, okay, to prove of we have schema is this experiment. So the experiment is done by brewers. Say when they see exactly 35 seconds, the participant is stayed in this room. Not in the picture, they haven't seen the picture. They stayed in the room for 35 seconds and then removed from the room and let let's talk about what they have seen. Okay, in particular thing is we have skeletons in here. Okay. Almost no one identified the skeleton in the office, isn't it? Some of the bulletin board is not much usual bulletin board in the office because normally bulletin board is out of the office, right? So using this kind of simple experiment, likewise what we did, right? The schema give us some wrong information sometimes, but that schema is in here. So when we think about office, so we can remember desk, computer, chairs, okay? But we can't imagine they have some other things like a skipping rope. Okay, we don't have it in the normally. So like a cat, globe, photo frame, magazine is not much being identified or found in the kitchen. That's the things about schema. So point is how the schema is represented. Okay? So that's why we have to develop some kind of script later on, but basically we have to come along with some of the more experiment about how the schema is established, okay, how the schema is made. The schemas allow for many variations in the object that might fit into a particular schema. So likewise, this example. Okay, I can give us some of the things, and then we have a little survey. Another. So you have to put your hands up quickly. Okay, so I can roughly count. So how your response is. Okay, you know that robin? Robin? Bird. In Korea is 종달새. Okay? How many people this one is bird? How many people think this one is bird? No one? Okay. Around 20. Okay. Chicken. 2. Okay. Okay. Oh, 3? That's fine. I'm just raise hand as quickly as possible. Okay. Okay, that is 1. Now he's talking about how many people think the murder is crime. Round. Homeless. Oh, no one? Okay. What is another example? Oh, okay, this one. How many people think apple is fruit? Okay. Tomato? Okay, around 3. So the Roches made this kind of experiment to give us a membership, category membership. So they simply surveyed, okay, each individual item to see how many people believed robin is bird and chicken is a bird. Chicken is bird, right? Chicken is bird. Right? So what they have found in 1970s, they found the membership. Okay, from 1 to 7. So robin is 1.1. So many people believe robin is a bird. Rather than chicken is 3.8, pretty much neutral value. And yeah, crime, murder, vagrancy is a homeless thingy. Okay, so vegetable is carrot and parsley. I'm just a little bit changing that. Likewise, this one is a Roche's first experiment to define it. Okay, so categorical membership. So people already have some kind of membership information of each item. And the second experiment by Roche is using photograph, the picture. So this one is apple, this one is tomato. How quickly they are responding when they see whether this one is fruit or vegetable. So many people quickly respond when they see apple picture as a fruit. When they see the tomato, they take time. A little bit. It's vegetable or fruit. That depends on where you live. In New Zealand, tomato is a fruit, but in here is a vegetable, isn't it? we call, that is fruit. Okay? Right. Some different country has a different things. Likewise, so this one is the last experiment by Roche, is trying to say how the membership is linked with our sentence knowledge. Okay? From the sentence. Okay? This one is pretty much reasonable sentence. I heard a bird twittering outside my window. 3 birds sat on the branch of a tree. A bird flew down and began eating. But if I only, that is normal sentence. When they heard this one, we just swap the word. Like I heard a robin twittering, 3 robins sat on the branch, and robin flew down, they began eating. But if I change this one to eagle, little bit, but it makes sense, but it's something unusual category, right? But if I put this one into the chicken, that is pretty much unlikely event, isn't it? So we have some sort of schema. This one is kind of what we have in here. And then using this cluster knowledge, we apply into smaller instance, event, right? You get it? So that means schema is more abstract approach to represent knowledge from the top to bottom. Okay, what he did is same thing. Like the previous one, we did, okay, schema, okay. So like a slot, what we did with a human or house, so that we try to make abstract structure of knowledge. And then when you need to infer the particular information, you can use this knowledge structure to define this one. That is your abstract knowledge. And then in each of the small event or instance can be swapped with the original idea to say whether they make sense. Okay, it makes sense. It is less make sense but still working. But this one, absolutely no idea. Okay, so that you can infer from the abstract knowledge into the small instance. That is beauty about schema. That comes from the ontology. How to make a slot structure is from the ontology. Okay? So that is the thing. And another experiment done by Levov is 1973 is another interesting experiment to define the information or the knowledge structure and how the schema is made about the cup and bowl. So they made many different types of cups in here, okay? And then they see whether participant recognize this one as a cup or a bowl. 그릇, okay? Bowl, okay? Not bowl, okay? Okay. So when they done this experiment, idea is this one. So only look at the solid line, okay? Solid line. So that is relative width of cup, which means this one. For example, number 4 is quite wide bowl. Okay, looks like bowl, but it also looks like cup because we have a handle, right? Bowl doesn't have any handle normally, right? So, but the wide, the relative width of, okay, the relative width of the cup is how this one is wider than this one, right? So using this kind of simple categorical information, so look at the solid line. So when they have a relative width, the cup is exactly the round one, all of them call that is the cup. But when they have getting down 1.2, 1.5, and 1.9 in here, around 40% are saying this one is cup. Which means probably we are trying to recognize the cup in terms of relative width. Okay, that could be one of the characteristics we can define the cup. Of course, handle is the most important slot, but another slot we can retrieve from this experiment was, yes, cup, if you want to say that that is cup, we need to see relative width of the cup, whether that is round or a little bit oval type. Okay, that is what we say. And many of us say no one called this one is bowl, but when they're getting bigger, like such as 2.5, relative size 2.5, many people will say this one is bowl. Likewise, in previous example, many people will say number 4 looks like ball. Okay, number 1 is definitely cup. So using this experiment, Lavov is identify we have some schema to define the knowledge. Okay? But the dashed line, okay, this dashed line is another text, another information. Say if the cup hold some of the liquid type, liquid like coffee or water, many of people still believe that is bowl, that is cup. Okay, where is it? Yeah, still, if you compare this one, okay. So if some food is in the cup, many people will say that is bowl. Okay, so the context can help you to recognize it, but that is not much important from this Lavov's experiment. Lavov's experiment is talking about we are using schema to represent knowledge. Okay, that's the thing. So this one is all about the schema, and the next topic is an event. Okay. Also, we have many events in our lifetime, right? Event. So like go to the restaurant, go to school, everything is an event. So the beauty about schema is schema can represent the event. Semantic network cannot represent the event, but schema can do it. So that's why in our textbook is talking about event has a conceptual structure like a script. This one is script. Say, so how to go to restaurant? They surveyed many people. Okay. So this one is normal procedure. So many of them say entering, ordering, eating, exiting. So in this event, like go to the restaurant and enjoy the meal and enjoy the dinner, we can say this one is kind of our knowledge structure to define that event. So this one called the script. And this next one, the second part of the photo is talking about, so they surveyed many people, but that means not agreement by all the people. There is no consensus by the people. So that's why they just a little bit slow down about how each of the item is linked with the many of people. For example, Roman types indicator, Roman type, where is it? This one. Roman type, italic. Where is italic? Oh, this one. This one is highly agreeable. The survey information say, so if you look at the open door, sit down, look at menu, order meal, eat food, pay bill, leave, is the most people have a common ground to say this one is the restaurant experience. But other things are slightly not agreeable information thing. So this one is the event script. Okay, so that's it. So that is end of chapter 5 is talking about this one. So what is the thing? So I'm just a little bit wrong in here. Abstraction theory versus exemplar theory. Schema is abstraction theory because we define the slot and then value so that we have a top-down approach. So that is called abstract theory. Okay, that's your essay 3. Exemplar theory is, we can't find exactly exemplar theory, but this one is pretty much similar in the semantic network. Say this one, ostrich can't fly. If you want to remember these kinds of knowledge representation here, you need a particular event description, particular knowledge description. So abstraction means from the top to bottom, say we make some architecture in our brain. So abstraction to detail. That is how the schema is working. And detail to abstraction is exemplar theory. So when we retrieve or when we infer the knowledge, we try to build up small instance into the making an abstraction approach is called exemplar theory. Okay, this one is exemplar theory. And the other one is abstraction theory. So one of the abstraction theory is schema. Exemplar theory is The semantic network is just one of the small part. It's not talking about this one is exemplar theory, but one of the things if you want to remember. So from that exemplar, you can make a more abstract knowledge, such as not all the birds can fly. Okay, from the exemplar, like ostrich. Can't fly. So when you make abstract knowledge, it's not all bird can fly. So if you make this one from the example to the abstract information, that is called exemplar theory. However, this example can solidate it. Like this one is one of the exception. But okay, so robins can fly. Can fly, eagle, or whatever. Many other example can define all bird can fly. These things can support this abstract knowledge. However, at the end, you can make another constraint, say, okay, to make another abstract knowledge. Okay, all the bird can fly, but not all the bird can fly. So there are two completing information. So we can say, okay, some of the bird can fly, others can't fly. Such a knowledge can be retrieved from example to abstraction. But this one is different approach, so abstraction, okay, from the example. So these two things is competing theory in knowledge representation. So many people developed a new theory or new model to present this one. However, both of them are right. In terms of neuroimage, okay, the fMRI thingy, so both of them are exactly we are using. Sometimes we try to retrieve the knowledge from abstract to bottom or detail, or sometimes we are using the other way around. Example to abstraction. We're using both of them. So that is what we have so far understood in knowledge representation. The other things is usual. So nobody knows exactly how that is working. So if you understand how that is perfectly working or theoretically approach, so you can make a really human-like agent. That's the dilemma in computer scientists. So how we can make it human-like agent, because we don't know how that is represented, because we're using both of them. Okay, that is the thing about the chapter 5. I know this last part is really hard to understand, because that needs some kind of leveling up of your knowledge in cognitive science, but that idea comes back in chapter 8. So that's why you have to little bit taste about the knowledge type, and then in chapter 8, when you make a decision theory or the knowledge, what is it? The decision making things, we use this knowledge representation. So we can come back to this topic again in chapter 8, so not too much worry about at this time. So that is chapter 5, and then I can give us some small information about chapter 7. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the most important chapter in our textbook to describe our memory structure. Okay? So we understand the perception, okay? And knowledge representation. The point is how that is stored, where, which part is handling this information. So it's called memory structure. Okay, so one of the important memory structure is working memory or short-term memory. So before we know about what is the memory one, I found memento. Have you seen the memento?
Where's my memory? Amnesia.
Amnesia.
Different from that. It's different from that. I have this condition.
Okay, from the beginning. Memento is really, really interesting movie. Only this guy cannot remember new things, but he has a totally really good memory of the past experience. But from that movie on, I mean, when starting, they had an accident, and since then,
I guess I've already told you about my condition.
okay. since then, he couldn't accept new knowledge, new information. Such as, when I see the Taekyung, am I right? Taekyung? Kim Taekyung? Oh. Taekyung, sorry. Sorry. Taekyung. When I see the Taekyung, sorry. Okay. When I see the Taekyung, okay. So if you do not have any perfect working memory, okay, I can't remember who he is. And when I get out and I get it back, so I can't remember him because I made him the new one. Okay, these kinds of things is happened in many accident-related disease or it's not symptoms. So we have to know how this happens. What part of our brain is handling this memory structure, and then how that is work out to memorize our information from the perception. So that is the thing, right? So have a look. The Memento, really funny movie. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So, point is this one, okay? In the chapter 6, I can come back to next week, but I'm trying to say a couple of important concepts is this one. Okay, we had a long history about to understand, okay, I haven't uploaded the end. We have a long history about trying to understand our memory structure. That is since 1890s. At that time, we don't have any psychological perspective, right? So very early stage of the psychology. So at that time, many philosophers trying to understand how our memory structure is consist of. So they proposed two things. One is primary memory and then secondary memory. Okay, such as when I see someone, I can remember him, but in some time later, I couldn't remember, right? I know who you are, but I mean, for example. But some people I can remember, but some people I can't remember. So from this event, we're trying to retrieve, there are two different memory. One is primary and the secondary memory. From this one, so we're trying to study how our memory structure is consist. Say Atkins and Schifrin in 1968 experiment, or their framework is give us really important conceptual framework to understand our human memory structure. Probably you have seen this one from our simple, the mind of human. Model of human mind, right? So this one is when you have some kind of stimuli in here. So we have eyes and ears, so they have a sensory memory, and then that is encoded in the short-term memory, and that is consolidated into long-term memory when you rehearse it. Okay, and of course we have forgotten. This one is the proposed model by Atkinson and Schifrin in 1968. Okay, chapter 6 and chapter 7 is talking about each of items. How we identify the sensory model, how we perceived and how we understood the short-term memory, and what is the long-term memory is chapter 6, 7, and 8. And that goes into your decision making in chapter 9. Okay, so first one is sensory memory. Okay, sensory memory. Sensory memory is your eye or ears. They can have very small register, very small, tiny register to hold it up, hold the information. So many of the people trying to understand how long they can hold the information and whether actually we have a sensory memory or not. Okay, so I made a couple of experiments with you guys. So I'm just talking very simple one. Okay, the sensory memory is this one. When you receive some of the information through your eyes, you can hold up some of the information, but not long time, very short time, right? So I can show one. Look carefully. Okay, look carefully. This one or this one. So let me know what word, what letter you have seen. Huh? E, okay. Any other people? Any other people seen other letters? One more? One more? One more time? Okay. You have to be very careful. No, E? One more? That's fine. So, It's not E, it's the F and L. F and L. So I give what? 0.05 seconds. 50 milliseconds. Is it 50 milliseconds? Yeah, 50 milliseconds. Okay, so if you have F and L with the time interval 50 milliseconds, you can't see the separate letter F and L. So using these kinds of experiment, we found that we have some sensory memory. How long they can hold up? 50 milliseconds. It's not actually real data. You have to read some textbook, our textbook. But let's say we have a certain duration to hold up the information. So that might be iconic memory, our visual memory. Okay, visual, sensory memory. Okay, what is the next one? But if I give a little bit longer time, what is it? See? Guy just gave a little bit longer, like a 0.2 second. 0.2 second. So when you have this kind of time, so you can separate them out. So using this very controlled experiment, we're trying to find how long we can hold the sensory memory, sensory information into our eyes. That's why 0.05 seconds need to be an animation. Animation need to be that kinds of frame. How many frames in 1 second? 24 frames normally. So that means roughly that seconds. So that's why you have to make 24 frames in 1 second that looks like real moving stuff. Right? That's the animation. Likewise, we have some sort of sensory memory. But this one is one of the experiments done by people, and the other one is iconic memory, the auditory memory. Okay, so that is idea about to identify whether we have iconic memory. Okay, echoic memory is kind of when you play one sound and then you have time lag in sometimes, right? And how long does it take to forget what you just heard? So using these kinds of experiment, we identify human has a very short time of echoic memory, but it's longer than our eyes, around 1 second. So which means after 1 second, we can't separate the first sound and second sound, but within that time, we can separate them out. Okay, that is I can play next week. I have another things in here. So, and then we go into the another topics is called the short-term memory, say like this one. So many of the people are trying to identify how many items or how many letters we can remember. Okay, so using this experiment, we say how many items we can store in our short-term memory. So first one is this one. What you have to do is, okay, so likewise this one, so whether you have seen the same number or not, right? Okay. Like 1, 2, 3, that is individually presented, like 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. So we have 4 legs. From the first to the last, there are 4 legs, right? So this one is, you have to let the participant, the experimenter know. Say like, when I show the 1, 2, 3, and the second one 2, 4, 5, so no. Okay, 3, 4, 2, no. When they heard the 1, 2, 3, you have to say, okay, I heard it, right? And then using this experiment, in a long way, like 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, like that, 1, 2, 3. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 legs. Okay? For the each individual participant, we did the test, this one like that. Up to 200. To see what? How many items we can remember. Okay? So starting from this one, okay, we just show the 6 items individually, step by step. And then they can, most of the participants can recall, okay, we haven't seen 1, 2, 3. But when you have a little bit longer, okay, most of the people are right up to that point. When you're getting longer, people couldn't remember the item whether they have seen it. 1, 2, 3. That is up to 200 letters or a digit. So we identified, okay, short-term memory can hold only some information, not many. So that is our limitation in working memory. So Miller's also experiment about 7 plus minus 2 is probably our working memory capacity, or other researchers also identified a different number. A point is, from this many experiment was, say, working memory has limited. Visual memory is very limited, but we can't handle it out for information design. But for making a better information, you have to use this working memory limitation. But that's what we have to learn in next week. So that is idea about how that is, okay, when you have a legs, the letters leg, like when you have a 60, many people can't, half of them cannot people recognize the number you have seen. And Miller 7 plus minus 2 I will discuss. And then there are two theories. One is, okay, that is the last one, last presentation of today. Okay. For the next week, what you have to read in chapter 6 is two things. So our textbook doesn't say about this one, because it just simply mention about, that is old structure, old classic model of memory. What you have to do by next week is you have to find this information from Google or Wikipedia. So they will explain many of the Atkins and Schifrin's experiment, or how they proposed this model. And then what we actually do in next week is totally new model. This one. That is working memory. The Baddeley's theory of working memory. That is not short-term memory. Okay, the Baddeley's is talking about we may not have long-term memory. We may have some sort of this memory structure. Okay, that is really hard. It's not hard, but it's totally new approach rather than previous classic model. So that explains much better, okay, than our old Atkins model. So what you have to do next week is this one. But to understand this one, you have to self-study about classic model of our model of human mind, Atkins model. See? And then I can explain how the Atkins model and Baddeley's model is different, and then why this one is much better than Atkins model. Okay, so find it about old model of Atkins, and then, okay, that's it. Okay, that's today's lecture. So if you do not have any question, you can free to go, and otherwise, questions?
Then is there any relationship between schema and our stereotypes?
Yes, we have. Such as this one. Okay, good question. House. Now, that's a good question. We may have this one. So if you think house is underground, yeah, we have a house in underground, right? So can you believe house in underground has a window? House in underground has a window? Well, that is stereotype. It might have. The schema can give us some kind of stereotype. Definitely, yeah. We call this one is constraint. So each slot has some kind of constraint between the slot, right? So that is a good question. Anything? Okay, so if you do not have any questions, so you can free to go. And then see you next week with your study about Atkins model.